Hello everybody, thank you for joining us. Today we're going to do a quick sketch of a character from the Star Wars series, and his name is Quinlan Vos. Quinlan Vos. So Quinlan Vos is one of the supporting characters in the Star Wars series, and he has his there's like a cred about this character who has been mostly mainstream in the secondary Star Wars media, so not necessarily in the movies. He had just one appearance in a movie. So first, before we delve into Quinlan Vos' history, we're going to just determine the type of sketch we're doing. So it's an upper body sketch. The head is somewhere around here, shoulders, delts. He's unconventionally slightly more bulkier character than his counterparts. So there he has some like traces of fitness and defined muscle about him. That's what we are trying to mention here. So here's the fist that will, of course, since he was a Jedi, he will be holding the lightsaber right there. So let's give him a lightsaber, and there's the elbow and the upper arm going into the delt, and we will give him the fatigues and everything, but let's just get the core framework done. And we have, so hunching somewhat backward, the other arm right around there. So the hand, I'm not sure if you're going to have the hand as visible. So looking straight at us right there, we're going to put in the generic details that we need for Quinlan Vos' face. So in most secondary Star Wars or supporting media, he has this somewhat like defined nose. We're just going to grab ourselves a marker for this and just put in the details so we can, this is a quick sketch. So he has this generic face with always a determined expression. So Quinlan Vos' history is rather interesting, even for a supporting character. By the way, he has dreads, so we're going to be drawing some. I'll try to like show it as a shortcut. Shortcut means that we need not highlight each and every dreadlock that is hanging here, but just enough so that it gives the impression of dreadlocks, and we can get away with some crosshatch, some tones between them. So we're going to give him his regular fatigues. Personally, he looks cooler with those than he did with his Jedi fatigues. So was a Jedi means that Quinlan Vos was one of the many Jedi who were hunted down by the Emperor's troopers when they turned on the Jedi. And this is just following the Clone Wars arc in the Star Wars saga. So Quinlan Vos had this. He did not trust clones to begin with, and that is why even with his commanding officer, the prominently featured Commander Fai, I think I'm pronouncing it right. He had that camouflaged clone trooper armor. He distanced himself from the clones, and that actually helped save his life, because when the very famous Order 66 was called in by the Emperor, any Star Wars fans knows that most of the Jedi were killed instantly, because the seemingly supporting clone troopers turned on them and killed them. So most of them died during the Order 66, which was also featured in the third installment, Revenge of the Sith. So one of the better Star Wars episodes when it comes to movies, but Vos survived because also he is somebody who's depicted to be at par with somebody like Obi-Wan, and he has this very formidable ability of surviving extreme challenges. His Padawan, or the people who they take under their wing, was also killed during Order 66. Also the very prominently featured Jedi named, I believe it was Ayla, who was a Twi'lek. I might have that wrong, but he did have a Padawan, and I think that it was Ayla. And Ayla died during Order 66, and Vos's fears of his distrust of the clones was just proven to be right all along. So we are showing him in his, let's say, the fatigues that he wore while he was in hiding, along with a few other Jedi, the surviving Jedi, like Kenobi, let's say. And they, in the comic books, which actually proved to be a very interesting part of the Star Wars franchise, Kenobi and Vos do catch up. For instance, they also coordinate, that's before Order 66, in their hunt for Zero the Hutt. But after that, they did coordinate as well, and they were, of course, also argumentative, and because, again, Kenobi and him differed, but of course, Vos was right about the clones and why he did not trust them in the first place, and that is one thing that could not be held against him. So he had this rebellious look, which the creators really tapped into, and we're just doing again. So the dreads, we could either highlight like that, so if you take your time, the dreads are a lot of fun to draw, but necessarily we do not need to have the same time expended here. Again, it's a quick sketch with just a little background insight into the character. So if you haven't checked this character out, you should. He has this, like, he's a supporting character, and he was briefly shown in episode 1, The Phantom Menace, just like sitting there in one of the trading markets, and he was just a part of that one little scene where he was just sitting down, and many people like pointed that out, that that is Quinlan Vos. And yeah, that it did not do any service to the character, because again, his story really hit it after Order 66, and the Star Wars movies only covered so much. They only covered events that involved the Clone Wars and then Order 66. And Quinlan Vos, after his survival and after his seclusion and hiding to survive the Empire, that is where his story truly shines. And he came across as one of the factors that was helpful in providing that background and concealed resistance to the Empire, and thwarting some of the threats that were like loose cannons here and there to imply the counselor's control, particularly over the surviving Jedi. So he also had this. So when Christy Holden, prominent writer, did the series of books that featured Quinlan Vos, and certain angles also particularly highlighted post-Order 66 life of the surviving Jedis. Quinlan Vos was successful in getting his own cultural following. So his own cultural following aside from the movies, and that shows a lot about the character. Also, when they had an action figure run, and yes, Star Wars action figures were huge always. They're still huge, but not the same thing, because so that, for instance, they were only featured in the 3¼ inch figure scale, and which adults and young people all used to collect. So Quinlan was, I believe, in the early 2000s, voted as the most desired character on which to base an action figure on. And once it was released, he was also voted as the best, the most liked action figure, although it did not have the same amount of articulation as the other figures. They still loved his sculpt and that design, and that is part of that is this that we are just putting down on paper, because Quinlan Vos, his whole getup, like this sort of rebellious getup after Order 66, was an awesome thing in the comic books. Also, he had amnesia for a bit. I think that there was some kind of undisclosed traumatic event. He survived an Empire juggernaut which tried to blast him out of the air, and personal thought is that perhaps that experience, because nobody survives a juggernaut, even like a strong Jedi, would be faced and affected by it, and Vos still survived. He was that strong, but he maintained some injuries, and that is my thought that probably that event led to him having amnesia for little bit, with traces of memory that would just resurface, and he would kick in his Jedi training to fight bots, to fight Empire troopers and other threats, like single-handedly. So there is a quick sketch of Quinlan Vos with some cross-hatching, and so that it's a little more acceptable. And of course you could pick your own ideas, you could pick your own. He is featured in the Clone Wars and even in the Rebels series of Star Wars animated, the continuing series, which is featured prominently by Disney Channel. And but this version is one of our, it is officially one of the most favorite versions of the character. So please check it out if you haven't, and it will perhaps also give you a chance to delve into the expanded Star Wars universe. Even if it's in printed form, it is truly an awesome read. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, keep in touch, have yourself a wonderful day, and as they say, may the force be with you.